like a boss.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to finish the chapter on how to bring out your rational self. This is the Robert Greene Book Club. If you guys ever want to check out more of these videos, more of the complete videos where I break down all of that's the goal, to break down all of Robert Greene's books in this format. You can click on the description down below where it says become a Patreon supporter. You get access to all the previous Robert Greene videos and the new ones. And you guys can also get the audio version in it. And according to the tier that you select, you can also ask one question per month and I'll make a video about it, okay? You get Patreon exclusive content by becoming part of the book club, all right? Do that or else I'm closing the Patreon. Let's continue. Oh, and by the way, you can watch the previous videos. I think the previous versions, no, the previous sections of this, you could watch the free versions on this channel. But if you want to watch all of the other ones, click on the description down below.
It's all part of the human comedy. Yes, people are irrational, but so are you.
Let's go back to
Make
30
your
seconds.
accept neutral as comets or plants.
Right now, he is talking about accepting people as they are and not desiring to change people. Because when you desire to change people, you stop thinking straight. You stop observing who they are. You stop looking at people with a clear eye, and what you're seeing is resenting what you're seeing. So you're not really seeing reality. You're seeing reality superimposed by emotion of being resentful. And that causes a disconnection because there's literally something blocking you in between you and that person. And that also blocks your perception of reality.
They simply exist. They come in all varieties, making life rich and interesting. Work with what they give you, instead of resisting and trying to change them. Make understanding people a fun game, the solving of puzzles. It is all part of the human comedy.
And that's the thing, right? A lot of people take interacting with people and getting to know them, they see it as a burden. And rather than trying to understand them, they walk around resenting them. So just think about it. You're not trying to understand them. You're trying to change them and you resent their nature. What do you think is going to happen? You're never really going to interact with them because they also are going to resent you not accepting them for who they are. This happens with kids. A lot of the time this happens with kids. So it's kind of like we got to get out of the mindset of trying to change people and just see them as who they are and how can you utilize their nature for your own benefit. For example, psychopaths. The world has a bunch of psychopaths. And if you don't put them to work, they're going to start killing you. All right. So what do people do? Those psychopaths have places in life where they can where they can use their psychopathy for their advantage. They become lawyers. They become people who you hire to fire people. They become fighters. They become any type. I'm calling lawyer psychopath, but any type of job that requires you to make those tough decisions. Or you might hire them as a hitman if you're a mobster, right? Or the psychopath might be the best person who you have fighting in war. You may not want them as your manager, but you might want them as a partner in war, right? Psychopaths have a use in this world. And if you resent them and try to eliminate them, you are eliminating a big part of the ecosystem of what makes human. Every person you meet has a use. And if you don't see it, you're missing out. And also, if you don't see it, those people are going to resent you. Or you might try to eliminate them from society by ostracizing them, labeling them, and pushing them further into the shadows. And what do you think is going to happen? Well, the psychopaths are going to unite and find a way to become meaningful and find some meaning in life because they're rejected. Rather than reject people, let's find a use for them. That's the ultimate form of rationality.
Yes, people are irrational, but so are you. Make your acceptance of human nature as radical as possible. This will calm you down and help you observe people more dispassionately, understanding them on a deeper level. You will stop projecting your own emotions onto them. All of this will give you more balance and calmness, more mental space for thinking. It is certainly difficult to do this with the nightmare types who...
Yep, and that's the key, is keeping your cool. Because some people are inflamers. Some people have a certain personality type that makes you defensive. and your goal is to remain as undefensive as possible. An example is politics. You have to, and I know a lot of you guys are into politics, but you have to find a way to not just root for one side. You cannot, just because somebody doesn't like, just because you're talking to someone and they talk bad about your favorite politician, doesn't mean you have the right to get, well, you have the right to get mad. But what I'm trying to say, that's not the only choice you have. You can also observe your defensiveness and make an effort to see their point of view, because you don't know that person. You don't know that politician. That politician doesn't even know who you are. And politics is one of the places where you see people's dark sides come out. So with politics, then you got to treat that as a spiritual practice, and notice how you give positivity to all the kind of candidates that you like, and you give hate to the candidates that you don't like. You have to find a way to change that, to reverse that dynamic, as even though you feel like you're right, as an exercise in rationality. You know what I'm saying?
Cross our path, the raging narcissists, the passive aggressors, and other inflamers, they remain a continual test to our rationality.
Donald Trump.
Look at the Russian writer Anton Chekhov, one of the most fiercely rational people who ever lived, as the model for this. His family was large and poor. His father, an alcoholic, mercilessly beat all of the children, including young Chekhov.
And it's funny because Chekhov was abused by the people in his life. And yet he still wanted to help them, right? And you have a bunch of politicians out there who are targeting groups that have been marginalized. And what they're doing, rather than preaching forgiveness, they're preaching take away their power. They're preaching, let's bring them down. And a lot of our people are buying into that. And what happens is that then you create an enemy out of something that's not even an enemy. An example is like white people, right? People are mad at the white people today. It's like, dude, that's just Bob the white man. That's Whitey. He doesn't know. He didn't have nothing to do with the past. Yeah, he may benefit from it, but that's not his fault. Why do you resent the fact that he was born into a position that his parents abused people, and now he's in a position where, it's privilege, but you can't get mad at him for that. That's not his fault. It's like killing a child for the sins of their fathers. That's not fair, right? And so it's what that is called a projection. That's a projection. And you have demagogues out there, people who are political activists who know that trauma, and what they do, they incite a certain form of violence, a certain form of reverse racism, but they're abusing your trauma. They're telling you, in order to heal, you have to find a boogeyman and destroy them. Overturn the patriarchy. Overturn the system. No. What you do is not allow that anger to control your decisions, and relax and see them as who they are. And once you see people as who they are, you're going to start noticing you weren't surrounded by as many enemies as you thought you were. It's just that somebody out there is playing on your traumas and trying to manipulate you to hate the other, to see an enemy where there's no enemy. And that is a form of irrationality. Racism is a form of irrationality. Discrimination is a form of irrationality. And also, your desire to hurt people who were racist against you is also a form of rationality. Can't you see that rationality brings people together? And irrationality just divides people.
Chekhov became a doctor and took up writing as a side career. He applied his training as a doctor to the human animal. His goal, to understand what makes us so irrational, so unhappy, and so dangerous. In his stories and plays, he found it immensely therapeutic to get inside his characters and make sense of even the worst types. In this way, he could forgive anybody, even his father.
Forgiveness is a high form of rationality. Forgiving people is realizing a lot of things and not taking things personal. Forgiveness is not taking things personal. Taking things personal will always, and I mean always, lead to a train of thought that leads to the pit of irrationality. Always. Not taking things personal will always widen your perspective and give you a wider view, a wider panoramic view of people in this situation.
Which in these cases was to imagine that each person, no matter how twisted, has a reason for what they've become, a logic that makes sense to them. In their own way, they are striving for fulfillment, but irrationally. By stepping back and imagining their story from the inside, Chekhov demythologized the brutes and aggressors. He cut them down to human size.
Yep. Rather than seeing them through the eyes of hatred, rather than seeing them through the eyes of the victim, you see them like a plant, like an alien that's probing a human. You just see them as facts. You see them as who they are. And that should be the goal. Observing is observing people, observing their patterns, observing what makes them them. Why are they the way that they are? What and trying to find connections, trying to find patterns, rather than observing and judging. You observe and make connections about who they are. That's a big difference because it removes emotions from it. The emotions want to judge. Rationality wants to observe and understand.
They no longer elicited hatred, but rather pity. You must think more like a writer in approaching the people you deal with, even the worst sorts. Find the optimal balance of thinking and emotion. We cannot divorce emotions from thinking. The two are completely intertwined, but there is inevitably a dominant factor. Some people more clearly governed by emotions than others.
Yep. And usually you could tell by that you're governed by emotion depending on your level of patience. Impatience is always a sign that you can't control your emotions. Patience is a sign that you can. Simple as that. You just ask yourself, how patient are you? And that will tell you almost everything you need to know about yourself.
What we are looking for is the proper ratio and balance, the one that leads to the most effective action. The ancient Greeks had an appropriate metaphor for this: the rider and the horse.
It's actually one of my favorite metaphors. Listen to this. Watch.
The horse is our emotional nature, continually impelling us to move. This horse has tremendous energy and power, but without a rider it cannot be guided. It is wild, subject to predators, and continually heading into trouble.
And that's your emotional self. It is reactionary, and it's compulsion. It's compulsive pretty much. And if you're governed by that, nothing good could ever come out of just following your emotions, people. It leads to hedonism and escapism. Always. Always. Trust me.
The rider is our thinking self. Through training and practice, it holds the reins and guides the horse, transforming this powerful animal energy into something productive.
Yeah, what the rider does, it multiplies the ability of the horse. It shows it new ways. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are just led by emotion are people who are underperforming. If you really want to increase your performance in life and how you see the world, you just have to become more rational. And the thing is, like I said, it's not natural. It's not a natural process. Everything I'm telling you, don't you notice, takes effort, takes consciousness. It takes you saying, okay, I feel this way, but let me try this. That is not normal. And that's why people who are rational stand out, because they did an abnormal thing that led to a result. You will get results. You will 100% get results. It just takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. We're going to continue this on the Patreon channel. This is the first part. I'm gonna upload the full version to my Patreon later tonight. But if you guys want to watch the whole thing, become a Patreon supporter. Like I said, there's a bunch of videos out there on my Patreon that I don't post on YouTube. And above all, there's no other YouTuber in the planet that's really going through all of Robert Greene's books in this format and giving you guys how to apply. Because a lot of Robert Greene's books are great, but the problem with his books sometimes is that they could be a little abstract, right? Sometimes they're just raw material that you don't know how to use it to create something. I'm teaching you I'm giving you guys instructions about how to use the raw material to your life, okay? Anyways, I'll see you guys in the other side, and take care.